All right, welcome to our live science show. We are live and we can take your questions, your comments, and suggestion. And in today's live science show, we have very interesting subject to discuss. And this is about the Artemis mission. You know, Artemis mission has taken a complete round of moon and now returned, and it has been recovered. But there are many things which are uh, available in public domain, but there are several things which are still hidden. We don't know what are the total objectives of the Artemis mission, but nevertheless the Europeans don't want to be left behind, and they are working on building a communication network very similar to what we have on Earth, because once the human colony is established on the surface of the moon, the people who live there should be able to communicate back with their families on Earth, and therefore there is a requirement for building a communication network around moon. And therefore the European Space Agency is now placing several constellation of satellites in the orbit of moon, so that they can cover the signals, communication signals, back and forth from the surface of moon, and then establish it a communication network back to Earth. So this is going to be very important, friends. I think this is absolutely important for any human colony to be living on the surface of moon successfully and basically conducting their business, because without communication things will fail. Even from one side of the moon, somebody has to make a call to the other side of the moon. You need a satellite constellation to take your signal back and forth. So this is very important if we want to set up our manned colony on the surface of the moon. This is absolutely important. So the next item on the list is that the Perseverance has found a nice patch of sandstone on the surface of the Mars. Now, why this is so significant? Because sandstones are usually created on, we know how the sandstones are created. This is basically when the sand is under pressure compacted, and it over time becomes a hard rock. And mostly it is done under the seabed, and then on Earth, because of the geological activities, the seabed comes up, and that's what we see on the surface of the Earth. So Perseverance has found that there is a nice patch of sandstone, and sandstone is the second hardest rock material found in universe after the granite. So sandstone slab has been seen by Perseverance. So it's very interesting that it also proves that there was water, or probably a large ocean, or several large oceans on the surface of Mars. And this is so interesting. So the hypothesis of the scientists that Mars was probably having life a couple of billion years back, but that is, the water has been either evaporated, or it has gone down into the surface in the form of permafrost. More research is required. All right, so moving on, the next subject today in the science show is that finally we know that the Milky Way galaxy is not a completely symmetrical object. It is, we know that it is spiral galaxy, but it is not a perfect spiral, and the axis is not like a perfect spiral. It's not like a wheel, basically. So and this information is now confirmed, that the shape of the heliosphere, which is the area which surrounds the Milky Way, is not completely like an ellipse. It's not a circular. It's not an ellipse. It's not a sphere. So it has this shape. It is actually cutting across the axis of the Milky Way, is cutting across diagonally into the Milky Way. So although we move in that fashion, but our center axis is tilted. Just like we have Earth's axis is tilted, similarly Milky Way is also sort of wobbling, and this is created by several collisions which happens with the large galaxies, and because of these collisions, the galaxy becomes they keep gathering more stars and becomes more bigger in size. And undoubtedly Milky Way is one of the large galaxies, because one end of the Milky Way to the other end, it's about 100,000 years. Even light takes 100,000 years to travel from one end of the Milky Way to the other. Or now with the latest study, it could be more than 100,000. It could be almost 1.85 thousand light years from one end to the other. So it is now turning out that Milky Way is much bigger than what we used to think. And it is not a complete sphere, neither a perfect ellipse. So it has a wobble. There is a wobble in the axis of the Milky Way, as it has been proved now by the scientists. So I think this is quite interesting, because we think that all the objects in the universe are very symmetrical, and they form with certain shapes in mind, and over time they will convert themselves into very smooth formations. But unlike our understanding, it is not the case. Things are always changing, and Milky Way is also undergoing tremendous change. Probably the collisions, the force of the collision are still shaping the Milky Way, and future collisions will continue to shape the Milky Way. All right, let's move to the next one. Now this is from the realms of science fiction. So far we have seen that in like the science fiction movies, the spacecraft comes down after an interstellar journey and enter the atmosphere and lands like, it has not traveled very far. It just lands like a normal spaceship, and most of the movies show that. That means you get into your spaceship like a motorcycle which is parked outside your house or on the roof, and you takes off and you go to a different planet. And then when you reach the different planet, you land normally, as if you don't need extra, you don't have to counter the extra gravity of takeoff and landing. So scientists are now developing a new type of engine, which is called the air breathing ion engine. And as you know, that ion propulsion is one of the viable solution for interstellar travel, because then you can achieve certain percentage of the light speed, and that is that makes the interstellar travel practical. But the problem is, when you accelerate towards a celestial body out there in the space, you have to decelerate. So all that the ion engines will be able to take care. But then when you reach that place, then you need some other type of craft to land, but that is not practical. So when you reach that destination of yours, you should be able to enter the atmosphere of that alien planet and land normally, as if you're landing like an aircraft, or vertical takeoff or landing aircraft. So this new research is being done, where the scientists are now trying to develop air breathing ion engines, so that they can not only send their probes to in future to other planets, but they don't need additional surrogate starships to land on a planet, and there has to be separate technology for landing and takeoff. The same ship should be able to land when they reach their destination, and also when they return, they should be able to land on Earth. So this kind of new development is being tried. So I think we will keep track of this information in our science show. As soon as we actually get the breakthrough, I will actually bring those information to you. So for today, I will end my show. As always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again next week on Monday, same time. Until then, have a nice weekend and keep rocking.